one of Buhari's boys saying that these Nigerian students should sue ASU for letting them stay at home for 6 months. It's the same misinformation we have been crying about. It is the federal government that kept ASU home for over 6 months. And the demands are clear. They wanted their salaries, their allowances owed to be paid. They want the entire education system to be funded properly. And I don't see why it is hard for the federal government to pay ASU money when Buhari just approved 400 billion naira for Empower and approving all sorts of money, 1.4 billion naira for vehicles to another country. How can you be giving 1.4 billion to Niger while students are at home? I think what the students should do is to join ASU in the strike and join them at the barricade and ensure that ASU demands are met, because ASU demands are also students' demand. We want better education system. So how can we get that if ASU is not well funded? So as usual, we should not listen to the political jobbers that are saying the students should sue ASU. The other way around is the students should join ASU to sue the federal government and also to join them in the struggle. So another thing is the secretary of the federal government still earning salary while contesting. It's still the same misinformation we're talking about. People don't know the law. The law says you should resign if you want to contest. The law is very clear. So it should be sued. It should be sued for violating the Electoral Act. It should be disqualified and be sued for violating the Electoral Act.
I think it is the students that should sue federal government to the court of public opinion. And they should do that by calling for a national protest where they will lock down the whole of this country. If they do not lock down Nigeria, most of those who are in the ASU Rock, National Assembly, House of Rep, have all their children abroad. So if they say maybe sue ASU, you no sue federal government, but sue them to the court of public opinion by taking mass public action. I think Nigerian students should call for NSAS Part 2 over the ASU strike. Thank you.
The federal government is highly insensitive. It doesn't make sense to ask students to sue ASU for making them to stay at home. If not for ASU, our educational sector would have been in a serious state of comatose. It is as a result of ASU struggle that we now have TED Fund. Apart from TED Fund, because of the series of struggles of ASU, the government has been able to come up with some level of intervention. If not for ASU, I tell you sincerely, our universities would have become primary schools. So it's the highest level of insensitivity. And that shows the level of irresponsibility of our government. Because the permanent secretaries still earning their salaries, I think is an anomaly. They are entitled to their pension, and that should be the basis. They should be getting salary, should be pension. It shows the rascality of the government also.
So I think it's totally shameless for the federal government to ask students to sue their lecturers who have gone on strike over legitimate issues of poor education funding. If there is actually anything that at least for the very first time we can say that the Nigerian government is right over a certain matter, it is indeed that the students should be compensated for damages. But who should be paying these damages? It is the Nigerian state, the Nigerian government, because they are the one who, by virtue of gross irresponsibility, corruption, and lack of empathy for the plight of Nigerian workers and Nigerian students, kept students at home for months, refused to pay workers' salary, refused to fund their education, but yet they are amassing enormous wealth. You can imagine how they were paid, how a lot of these political actors are paying 100 million naira to seek forms to contest for public offices. I think the government is shameless, and I think at the very least it should be modest enough. It should be modest enough to acknowledge that it has failed and resign.
Concerning the federal government telling the students to sue their lecturers while they are still on strike over 6 months. Well, the government are just leaving their responsibility to the student, because the government has kept the students at home for more than 6 months, not doing the necessity that are supposed to be done in the universities. And now these students have been at home for over the month and nothing has been happening. Then the government is telling them to go and sue the lecturer. Then what is the work of the government? They've just been there doing nothing. They've not been able to meet the demand of the ASU. And why would they tell the students to go and do such? That means the government are not taking up their responsibility. That's why we need a better governance in Nigeria. We need better people in